on? Okay, that's good to know. Okay. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting, Joint Planning Board meeting and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, June 15th, 2026, and it is 6:33 p.m. And would you please, Emily, read the...
This meeting will be held in a hybrid fashion with the opportunity for both in-person attendance and remote participation. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be held in person in the main meeting room of the Deerfield Municipal Offices. Hello, everyone. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, anyone intending to record the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to take roll call, and then I'll pass it over to you, David, to do it. So I'm going to take roll call. Kathy Wetruba?
Here.
Ann Buchanan?
Here. Emily Gaylord, present.
Kathy Sylvester, present.
Rachel Blaine, present.
And Denise Mason, present. All right, I'm going to pass it over to David to start your meeting.
Okay. Well, we're already started in the meeting. I don't have to redo any of that, right?
Yeah, we already read that.
Okay, so the roll call, we'll go to Gabby on the screen.
Gabby Richard Harrington, present online.
Could you do it again? You were muted for part of that.
Gabby Richard Harrington, present online.
Perfect.
Elaine Canoyer, present.
David Potter, present.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm just going to go on. Let's see, we're just going to review our minutes, and you can review your minutes, and then we'll get started. So has anyone had a chance to review the minutes for, let's see, May 4th, 2026? And if so, are there any additions or corrections?
No, I have nothing. I would move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Emily Gaylord, second.
Okay, I'll take a vote. Kathy Wetruba?
Kathy Petova, yes.
Ann Buchanan?
Ann Buchanan, yes.
Emily Gaylord, yes.
Kathy Sylvester, yes.
Rachel Blaine, yes.
And Denise Mason, yes. So minutes are accepted. David, your minutes?
Excellent. Yes. So for the review of the Zoning Board of Appeals minutes, the meeting was Thursday, January 14th. And does anybody have any questions, any concerns? All good. Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 14th, 2026. Do I have a second?
I'll second Gabby Richard Harrington.
Gotcha, Gabby. Thank you for the second.
Can you remind me if I was there or not before I have any objections to them?
You were, in fact, this was the meeting at which you announced your resignation at the close of the
and you didn't accept it. I remember that one.
And we also, didn't we approve the special permit at that meeting?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you remember that one? 7 Thayer Street?
Yes. So I vote aye.
I have to abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. And I vote aye. So that's 2 out of 3 of our quorum. Does that pass the approval of the minutes? Excellent. Okay. Oh, do I have another set of minutes?
You do.
Thursday, March 19th. We had the Conway School of Landscape Design present. We didn't really make any decisions, right? Okay. And who was there? Gabby, you were not there, but I don't think that actually prevents you from approving minutes.
Oh, sorry.
I'm told you don't have to be there to approve the minutes.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Oh, then I second it.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes of March 19th, 2026. And Gabby, you second that?
Yes.
Excellent. Any questions, concerns, comments, opinions? All right. We got somebody online if you want coming into the meeting. So let's take a vote to approve the minutes of March 19th. Gabby, how do you vote?
Aye.
Elaine?
Yes.
David, I vote also yes. That's a slam dunk. Unanimous.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to move on to new business, and it's review of proposed changes to ADU and other zoning bylaws. And it's my understanding that we just recently received all the changes, and we do have a couple of copies. And are you going to put that up?
I can look at it on my computer and then.
Or, Alex, are you going to put that up online, or
Yep.
so everyone can see?
Hopefully. Here, I'll, maybe we'll go to the main part of the bylaws first. Okay, here. If I zoom in a little bit more, is that
They can, they've got ones they can share.
Okay, so Alex, the version that I printed out from, everything was in green.
is
Is
it
that-
cleaned up? Okay, hold on. Let me just change
I
the.
don't care, I just want to make sure we're on that we have the same version. I printed from that, I think I texted you.
Yeah, as long as it was from this draft collaborative document that we sent out at the very last or the last May meeting, it should be totally fine. You probably just don't have the track changes on. Let me just change the view here. Hold on. I can remember.
Oh, you got it, okay.
Let me just see if I turn it off. Let me see if I'll change it. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that. Essentially, what I did, at least to just kind of give some background, was that I took the entire zoning chapter 179 and was starting to make some edits to it. And that's because the accessory apartment bylaw, which is now replaced by the state Dover protected ADU bylaw or accessory dwelling unit bylaw, needs to be almost fully changed throughout the entire chapter because our accessory apartments, by definition, are in the use tables. They're also in the parking tables. And then they also have their own full section, which is 3900, the what we've now are calling accessory dwelling unit or ADU section of the bylaw. And sorry, this is still showing the crossed out version, but in short, what we had to do was essentially remove all of the previous wording for the accessory apartments. It talked a lot about home ownership and how it could be constructed. And essentially, the state passed new laws that said that we can't actually regulate ADUs in this way. So at present, anyone who applies for an ADU building permit needs to just go through the building commissioner, and the building commissioner is applying the base state code at the current time. And so what we kind of decided, I think, at the last planning board meeting was really to kind of take the model ADU bylaw produced by the state and really replace just this whole section, pretty much copy paste, just taking their words. And so the edits I made like yesterday are really just taking that model bylaw that I think we've shared with both boards and just kind of actually just like copying it all almost verbatim into this entire thing. I think it might make it a little more, digestible to talk with residents about it and, just show like we're literally just doing what the state generally required us to do, with a small exception that the town may choose to add in a special permit for an ADU up to 1,200 square feet by special permit process, but all the other constraints would remain the same. So the setbacks, the height, all those sorts of things that can be regulated under a Dover amendment because ADUs are Dover protected now, will then fall through. So let me just try one more view. I'm not really sure why I can't get this to get rid of all the edit mode. Nope. One sec.
Although what the one that I printed out has all the editing in it, so that's what people are looking at. So I wonder if maybe.
Oh,
we should-
it does? Okay.
Yes, it does.
It has all the redlining. Cool.
Yeah, it has all the redlining, so people can see what's crossed out and what's added.
Okay, cool. Then that actually makes it a little easier. Let me just go to this then. Maybe. Okay. So the purpose, like I said, I just went ahead and went exactly with the model bylaw. Can you guys see my screen? It's saying the pages aren't responding.
Is it
Not
possible
very
to make
well.
it larger?
Okay, how about that?
Really small.
Alex, can you use even maybe a little more?
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
compressed on the screen, so
That better?
I'm seeing it fine. It's taking up the whole screen. That's fine.
yeah, I think just here in town hall, but we all have copies. It's just for the folks in the audience.
Okay.
I think we're just gonna do our best.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is just a draft. Obviously, it'll have to go through like a full public hearing process and all that. So I could just go ahead and read it then. So it says the purpose of this section is to allow for accessory dwelling units defined under MGL to be built as of right in single-family residential zoning districts in according with the Zoning Act. And the regulations under 760 CMR 71, protected use accessory dwelling units. So those are some of the major acts that kind of define what you're allowed to regulate as far as home ownership and the building code. And so a lot of it just kind of repeats the same language that you kind of like some of the definitions and such come from these other state legislative mandates. And so the purpose, we chose to go ahead and change it from the accessory apartments to the model bylaw. So I went ahead and added these. The purposes are to increase housing production, to address local and regional housing needs across all income levels and all stages of life, develop small-scale infill housing that fits in context of zoning districts that allow single-family housing while providing gentle hidden density, and provide a more moderately priced housing option to serve smaller households with lower incomes, seniors, and people with disabilities, and then enable property owners to age in place, downsize, or earn supplemental income from investing in their properties. So again, this is all just straight from the model bylaw. And so this section of the definitions, there are going to be a few deviations. One of the things that the model bylaw was really encouraging was allowing flexibility for multiple ADUs or dwelling units per parcel. And so in MGL, there is actually a definition for a protected use ADU, which is a Dover protected accessory dwelling unit, and then a local use ADU. The local use ADU being ones that could either be enlarged or they could be multiple ADUs on a single lot. And I think that the decision at the time of the last board was kind of, we weren't really thinking of multiple lots, maybe, or multiple ADUs per lot, but just allowing an increase in the size up to 1,200. Some of the neighboring communities have done that. Montague's done that. I think might be Conway that maybe also did it. So it would allow by special permit an increase of the square footage from the base language, which is, hopefully you can kind of see it down here, which is an ADU cannot be larger than 1/2 the gross floor area of the principal dwelling or 900 square feet. So we're giving an additional 300 square feet by special permit, so long as it can meet all the other setback requirements. So I think that's probably one of the only things that I'd say we didn't differentiate between protected use ADU and a local use ADU. We just called them all dwelling units because the town just seemed like it seemed like from feedback from the Conway study, from other things, that a lot of discussions we've had, that one unit felt like a comfortable growth, but also allowing slightly bigger units may be like a good balance of kind of giving a little bit more latitude where it might make sense. Also, under the presumption that ADUs are mostly going to be probably in town in the CVRD and connected to sewer, just because the financial barrier to add or increase your septic. So I just wanted to stop there. Are there any like questions at this point? I can't see you guys because I minimized my screen so much. I just wanted to check in.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can they?
Kathy.
Can you hear me? That's Kathy Wetruba. So it's by right.
hmm
It's by right, unless you're exceeding the allowance of size, and then it's by special permit. Is a special permit as well if there are multiple ADUs on a single lot, even if they're within the,
No.
no.
No, we're not.
So
we're
no
not
matter
doing
what, if there's
multiple.
multiple ADUs, it's always special permit.
We just weren't allowing multiple ADUs per lot. That's kind of what we landed at.
Okay.
I think it is going to get a little weird or interesting. It'll be interesting to see what goes through land court as far as like how many ADUs can you add before you're just a multifamily complex, or you know what I mean? Like, I think there's going to be some interesting case law on how you divide where is it an ADU versus a threeplex or a fourplex or something, an apartment complex of sorts. So. But
Yes.
I mean, if the town wants to change their mind, that's fine. You can totally add in multiple units per lot.
It seems to me there's language that, well, I see the table, it looks like special permits required all the way across. Is that not true?
That's- So that'd only be for accessory dwelling units above 1,000 or above 900 square feet or larger than 1/2 the gross floor area of the principal dwelling. So here, I can go up to the use table if that would be easier to just start there.
Yeah, exactly, 2,200.
Yep.
The use regulation schedule, there's a couple of maybe footnotes, AG1, GU2, I'm not sure what those mean, but it's a little confusing because it looks to me like accessory dwelling unit, special permit all the way across, or no, right, in the industrial, et cetera.
Right. Well,
It
it
needs to
wouldn't
be-
matter because it's state law. So it's Dover protected anyway. It would just be saying the access, and we could add, I think we had an asterisk to like maybe say this was up to 1,200 square feet or something, to like clarify what this was up in this section and in the dimensional requirements.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an easy change. We can just add that to make it a little more clear.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. So we can do that. The other thing, this was going to be, I was going to try to give basics of what the law said first and then come back to this because this could get a little interesting of a discussion, but we can start here. So the other thing though that you have to be aware of too in this use table is that we have dwelling incidental to commercial, which is it's like 3 above the ADU one. And so technically by right, we already allow dwelling units incidental to commercial or industrial use in the C1 and C2. And that actually has less constraints, right? Like we don't actually define like what the size is. It's not spatially constrained. It's not necessarily an MGL protected use in this case. So I think it adds a little more confusion doing this ADU special permit nexus when it's already allowed by right. So, but I think you could go either way, or we could edit both and make it clear. So I could just flag it too as like a note that maybe it's something to kind of look into and talk with the building commissioner about too.
I have a question. Does it change the definition of what's already existing? If you have an accessory apartment now that fits within the 1,200 feet, does it become an ADU?
I don't know what the building code interpretation would be, but as far as like zoning, it would be a vested right, like use or a pre-existing non-conforming. So it would be protected essentially.
Because by the special permitting, if I remember correctly, too, we were thinking, if it's by right, who's to say? How do we know? Right. How do we know? And so this was not a. It was not a. It wasn't so much a yay or a nay, but just let us. Can we take a peek? Can we inventory this? A, B, make sure that it's safe and proper. So I thought that was what we were talking about a little. We were more concerned about.
You mean existing ones?
Well, that too.
Good luck.
Well, they'd all go through building permit process.
I mean, if you're talking about housing inventory and you're trying to build a stronger understanding of how our housing inventory is expanding or not expanding, you need to know. And it was one of the things about having, because when our original, very, very original ADUs, sorry to dwell on this, but the ADUs, people could have the ADU only if it was X, Y, or Z usage. So then when the parents moved or the kid moved or, worse, there's the ADU. And so there were a lot of non-conforming. Now they're conforming. They were unacknowledged, under-acknowledged. I mean, it's part of the reason that I think this is that cleanup that Kathy did was so critical, because we were kind of walking right over a housing inventory increase that was kind of under the table. So this was a way of bringing it out into the open, not to say, well, let's see you on Monday night and we'll review your plan, but more special permit, like an endorsing an A&R, like so that you know. I mean, maybe we don't need to know.
I think no matter what we do, I hate to say it, there's still illegal ADUs, illegal two families that exist. And truthfully, I really don't know how we enforce.
Right. So that's why that special permitting would, if we made it very simple and then the special permitting is just a way of saying, oh, good, thank you. Okay, great. When you're bringing this to if there's a conflict, I mean, we're here to reduce conflict in community, right? Create an order in a community where when neighbors are unhappy with each other, there's a bunch of cars parked out. Why? Because they have another person. They have an ADU. And then we can come through and say, yeah, we look at that. That's okay. I don't know. That's why I think we were concerned now. And it's interesting because the dwelling incidental to commercial industrial usage, those neighbors are less likely to be unhappy about an ADU because they're not there during the night because it's commercial, it's industrial, it's business, So this is more about neighbors, is what I think. It's more like a residential area.
And just FYI, Bob is the zoning officer. He is in charge of enforcement. So if someone complains, that's Bob's job.
I think our other this is Kathy Wetruba. I think our other concern too is just safety, like police, fire, ambulance. Who's living in our community? What does our census look like? What is our demographic? Who are we supporting? I the libertarian in me, by right, do it, build your ADU. But the other side is like, sorry, but so I think that a simple process. I mean, it is what it is now, but if we're trying to figure out who's in our community, how are we supporting our community, how are we meeting their needs through safety, our school system, our senior center, so on. I think touching base this is what we have. It's not a bad idea. They're not for Nana anymore. Those days are over.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm in favor of keeping the special permitting. And maybe Kath is saying the same thing, libertarian that she is.
Sometimes.
Are you talking about just keeping the special permit for over 900 square feet?
No.
Because we had,
Up to.
I'm up to 1,200. But what about we had by right in the past up to 900. Right. And we're not going to keep that?
That's what we have to do. That's state law. And I think maybe Alex didn't put that line in there because it is
already a
Dover.
given. It's
But
already a
maybe we
given.
can put that line in there just to make it clear that.
And that's
by
the
right.
asterisk, right, Alex? That's what you're talking about when you're saying put an asterisk on it and put in a part about, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to edit it. I don't know if it's
Okay, I got it.
yes. So you can't say anywhere that anyone has to do a special permit process for 900 square feet or greater than 1/2 the principal dwelling unit. That is state law and Dover protected, just like schools or churches or anything else. It would just be for those seeking to build over 900 square feet or greater than 1/2 the principal dwelling area.
I'm just thinking, even though it is Dover protected, like maybe we'll just put a line in there and show that, yeah, it doesn't, it's allowed by right, just so it's clear that up to 950 square feet, the Dover protected ones are just show up, even though, as I said, it's state law, but that just so there's not confusion when people look at
Yeah.
it. And then-
I agree. I think
Mhm.
that's a better way of doing it.
Okay.
Here we are again.
So two separate lines, right? Like this. Can you see the edits?
Yeah,
I'm
two
making,
separate lines.
hopefully, in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, just because, people, what you do when you look at the use table, you look for your use. And you want to, like I said, even though we have to, let's show it.
Let's see. I'll just say up to and then this one. Okay. So, I guess then, do you still want to keep them by right? Well, actually, I think these all have to be yeses, but do you want to allow them in all the zones, I guess, would be the other question, the special permit, the larger unit. I think, oh wait. Single family dwelling. Okay, so sorry, it's only by right where single family dwellings are allowed. So these actually could all be no's if we wanted to leave them that way.
Yeah, so state laws, they are allowed by right in RA. Is that correct?
And where single family dwellings are allowed.
Or a single family, thank you, okay.
Yeah, because not all towns have RA. That's specific to Deerfield, our districting. So I guess we could just put a pin in it, I guess, if you guys are kind of just still mulling it over and, I could move on to the other section. Or don't want to make a decision right now, that's okay too. Or want more public feedback, that's fine too.
Well, I guess I go back to kind of Rachel's point about the incidental to commercial or industrial use. I don't know why we wouldn't just allow it. Yeah. It seems like it's a win-win, actually. It brings in more business for the businesses, potentially. It allows more housing, which we desperately need. I just don't know why we wouldn't put a yes there.
Well, the incidental dwelling actually has greater flexibility and more latitude with regard to there's not limitations. There's no Dover analysis required. So it's actually more generous to leave it as a yes in the dwelling unit incidental to commercial than to put it in a by right. It just kind of makes it weird as to how your building code would probably interpret it. But we could ask Bob too what he thinks. It'd be up to his interpretation, right? When the building permit comes in, is this an ADU or is it incidental to commercial?
Yeah, that makes sense to ask Bob.
Okay, I will flag this one.
We want to clear inventory so that there aren't illegal apartments. And we want to encourage this kind of use. Why don't we give an incentive? And then there would be an incentive for people to have legal accessory dwellings or legal apartments or whatever they are.
I don't think there's a way to incentivize it under zoning or planning code necessarily more than giving them free form like this dwelling incidental to commercial allows. Does that make sense?
Okay.
But maybe a housing trust in the future. There's interest in that. That would be it could be a really useful financial tool for the town to consider under CPA. Okay. So I'll put that comment in there so we could see what Bob has to say about that section. And then I'll jump down to the dimensional requirements because this is a big one too. Essentially, we were talking about our dimensional tables. We obviously have minimum lot size, frontage. In both the Conway School and FERCog's analyses of our housing stock tended to indicate that frontage is kind of a large barrier and minimum lot size too. And I actually looked it up, this like 100-foot zoning and 200 feet in the CVRD and the RA were actually stem back to like the very first iteration of zoning bylaws for Deerfield. So they just have never actually changed. And so one of the things we talked about was this table uses a lot of these superscripts. And so maybe changing to, which was actually it's a increase it by 25% of frontage and minimum lot size for 2-family dwellings, by 50% for multifamily dwellings. And so we were talking about maybe going in the opposite direction with that superscript and decreasing frontage and lot size by 25% for single-family dwelling allowed by special permit by the planning board. Could be ZBA too. The one thing, though, that I learned kind of after kind of circulating this draft with Town Hall was that the assessors actually would probably it might be good to have a conversation with them because they have to appraise parcels based on the maximum development possible. And so this could impact property taxes. And so I don't know if we even have the right amount of time to do this or vet it thoroughly before like a special town meeting. But it is one of the things that I think was highly talked about in a lot of the housing conversations we've had recently and a lot of the reports that have been coming out.
There was just that New York Times article. Did you all read it? Where they basically made the argument that minimum lot size is one of the key barriers to Massachusetts building the housing that we need, so that our supply versus demand, and that's part of why housing costs have gone so through the roof, is we just don't have the density that's required. So if we can't do it for special town meeting, it's worth examining and continuing to have the conversation, because I think particularly in rural areas, looking at that where we can build density is a worthwhile discussion.
So are you saying that the assessors would have to do all this work before town meeting if you changed that?
They wouldn't have to do it before town meeting necessarily. They would probably do it after, but it would be probably helpful for the public too to understand how it might increase your property taxes if the minimum lot size is reduced, right? Because then your value of your property could go up because your density could go up. So the buildable area can go up. That's generally the way I understand it. I'm not an assessor, so I'll caveat with that's the way I interpreted what Karen gave me. She said they would really want to look at it and they'd have to do a pretty big analysis once it was on the books for sure. And maybe it wouldn't be very much. 25% isn't huge, and not every lot even currently meets the definition of our minimum lot size and minimum frontage size. So not everyone would be impacted also. So it's a little hairy, that's all.
Speaking of somebody that would be impacted, I just wonder, what the, I can't see that passing town meeting easily unless there's some kind of, not only clarity, but I guess you can't use the word grandfathering anymore. But not penalizing people that happen to have what is now not a lot, an extra lot, all of a sudden becomes an extra lot, that those people shouldn't be affected unless they turn it into, obviously,
Right.
building
It
lot,
would
right?
actually benefit the incumbents because if they sold.
You've got to use the mic.
Yeah, I know. It would benefit the incumbents because then if they sold, they'd sell at a higher price. So you're trying to say people who had those bigger lots not to lose out because all of a sudden now their property is worth more because they could actually sell it, split it and sell it.
Well, but
Right.
the taxes would go up in the meantime.
Yes.
No, I know.
There's no way that's
And I
passed.
don't think you can split these lots, right? We're not talking about an actual extra lot, right? We're just saying you have the size to put a,
So what, right now, I pay for a lot that can only have one house.
Right.
With this change, I could have a lot that could be a
yeah,
building
no, I
lot.
understand. And it would be
So-
worth more and you would be charged the taxes until you sold it.
Right. Right.
But there was a comment that talked about an extra lot and separating that lot for profit, but that's not within the parameters of what we're talking about for
Yeah.
ADUs.
So I misspoke. I don't mean
Well-
cut it in half, but I'm saying that what you're saying is that the incumbents are going to be bummed out because they would be paying that. And so you would look for some kind of, like, not those people now, but the next. So it's just, I think it's a very complicated thing that we'd really need to look at before we made a proposition.
Well, so your assessed value is on the maximum development. So this would mean that you could develop your property more. So it's less about lots and more that, like Kathy, and since you volunteered yourself as an example, Kathy's now able to build more on her property than she currently is, which is what would increase the property taxes.
Well, yeah, but obviously
Well-
your taxes will go up. I mean, it's not as though they're not going to go up, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that has to be worded very carefully because what they're saying now, if as soon as someone hears at town meeting whether it's going to affect them or not, the taxes are going up, you could forget about it because they'll just vote it down.
But the valuation will go up more. If you value it, it'll go up more for some than others. It's not like taxes go up. Everybody's taxes go up. There's a rate increase. But if I have a bigger property right now,
Yep.
it's actually now going to be worth a lot. I mean, my taxes are going to go up much
Right.
more than somebody else who's just built their house on a smaller
And
lot.
that's logic. That's total logic. And people don't necessarily adhere to
Well,
logic.
so I think that for the intent of this conversation in this moment right now, we should have a conversation with the assessors to get their, like with this, right now we're just kind of speculating on what we think would happen. So some actual data would be helpful. And then I'd also like to look at what other towns are doing who are increasing their lot sizes. And are they putting in provisions that protect people who are kind of like being kind of shoehorned into the new requirements would be worth learning about, because the reality is, like, we still have a housing crisis. And so what are we going to, like, at some point we're going to have to inconvenience somebody, right?
And I am all for this, actually.
Yeah, no, I know-
Okay.
I know that,
So
yeah.
I just don't want you to misunderstand. As Al knows, I've been saying, like, I'm 40 feet short of another building lot. Come on. It's crazy, But at the
Well,
same time, for somebody else that might look at that and not be too happy.
Which is why having an assessor, and I know that, Kathy, I'm just saying that those are the things. To Denise's point, if we bring this to town meeting, if we don't have every T crossed and I dotted, people will just hear the T word and freak out.
Yes, they will.
That's why I mentioned the assessor conversation, because I just felt like it was pertinent. The other thing, I didn't want to interrupt the discussion, but this is actually changing the minimum lot size. So you could subdivide your property into 2 different lots. So that is actually what I'm saying, is that your property tax would increase if you don't subdivide it because it is more developable, but also when you could subdivide it, and we're saying overall the general minimum lot size in these zones could be smaller and the frontages could be smaller. So just
Right.
to
But
clarify.
If you subdivide it, is that sellable independently?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a whole new lot, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So
So then it'd
you're-
follow Subdivision Control Act laws. We're just saying the zoning sets the size of how small those lots can be and what the frontage and all those requirements have to be. But then, then it would trigger. So yeah,
So
it's
who would talk to the assessors since you're leaving or left?
well, I think a new planner would, but it also might not be bad to like separate this out. Like do the ADU bylaw, update it in its full because it's kind of a lot, and then have this be either a separate article on the same town warrant or maybe a different town meeting. Because I think this one would require a little more, conversation and thought. And you could go to the assessors meeting, or, maybe Amy could coordinate a joint meeting. They meet on Tuesdays. So you could have an open conversation or have a couple members from each board, just meet as long as there wasn't have a preliminary conversation. So there's a few ways you could choose to do it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And so this piece, this topic of frontage and setbacks, et cetera, this is really not directly related to ADUs. This is a
No.
whole separate piece. Gotcha. Okay.
It's just a bigger housing piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Right. Right. So then you could look at a few other areas too, really. I mean, any of these other like setbacks and such too, you could look at those. So yeah. Okay. So we'll put a pause, I guess, on this topic, and I'll if it's okay, I'll just run through the accessory apartment. Oh no, actually, sorry, there's one more weird section in this front half that kind of deals with accessory dwelling units. And this is actually, you could couch it either way. It could be discussed as a larger housing topic, or it could be included in the ADU bylaw. So one thing we talked about was allowing the reduction of the parking requirement by special permit or site plan review condition, just to give a little more leniency if somebody's coming for a site plan review anyway. It seems silly to make them apply for a special permit when you could just condition the site plan review as such to reduce parking. And we talked about the ADU under MGL, under Dover protections, if it's less than 1/2 mile from a transit station, the board is not allowed to require an additional parking space for the ADU. And so this is kind of keeping pace with, like decarbonization and the housing stuff that we talked about. Maybe just like clarifying some of the wording in this reduction of the parking requirement. So that way the planning board could consider on-street parking available near the premise and proximity to transit stations and factors in making a reduction of parking requirement. So that would be for all types of uses though, not just housing. So like I said, it's kind of like one of those things where you could couch it under like, yes, it makes sense because it's part of the ADU bylaw anyway, or you could couch it as like just a general like update, kind of like the other dimensional requirement stuff. But the reason that this kind of section got triggered was because in dwelling units and in our parking tables, there was a single family with an accessory apartment was required to have 3 additional spaces. And so we talked about maybe just requiring 1 additional space for an ADU if the lot is not located within 1/2 mile of a transit station. So in the reverse, obviously, you don't have to require a parking space if it's within 1/2 mile. That makes sense. This one I would recommend in the table. The other one you could go either way on, in the text above. That makes sense then? Everyone's on board with that?
Yes, we're here.
Sounds
good.
We're nodding.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We're nodding away.
Okay.
Both, I think. You just keep both in the table. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody?
Sounds good.
Yeah, they're pretty minor. So, okay, let me just scroll on this side so I don't make you all dizzy. Okay, so back to the accessory dwelling unit. So again, this is literally just the model bylaw. I just added in verbatim all those sections. Here, I'm going to get rid of that so I can make this a little bigger. The only I'd say definition. So the definitions, I got rid of the local versus um, the what is it called? Protected use, ADU words, and just used ADU. I think it just makes it a little bit simpler. And then we can just say an ADU up to, I just added on the definition, an ADU up to 1,200 square feet may be allowed by special permit. An ADU that is non-conforming to zoning shall still qualify if it otherwise meets this definition. And that pre-existing non-conforming, I think as ZBA learned very recently, is in MGL and it's backed up. And so there's not really much we can do about the pre-existing or the vested right kind of dwelling units. So I just added that piece in there. So everything in Deerfield would just be called an ADU. There'd be no protected use versus a local. I just think it's odd. You don't call a school a protected use school or protected use church or synagogue or something like that. Like it's just that is Dover Amendment is protected uses. So if anyone wants those definitions thrown back in, I can do that.
No, it's fine. Thanks, Alex.
All right, cool. So then all these, again, these are literally straight from the model bylaw. I did update this dwelling unit, or I borrowed this dwelling unit definition from the model bylaw. I do think we should change, there's a definition section at the end of this chapter of the zoning that has a slightly different definition of dwelling unit. I think it would make sense to just copy and paste it down there as well. It's relatively similar, but this language is actually a little bit more conclusive, and I think it follows the building code a little bit better. The gross floor area, we also pretty much just left that. I think allowing building code to dictate makes a lot of sense. When codes conflict, it gets really terrible for the building commissioner. Let's see. The modular dwelling unit. So this one we deviated slightly in the definition. So after talking with Bob, the building commissioner, we wanted to make sure that this was just very clear that a modular dwelling unit is affixed to a permanent foundation. Because you can do like building commissioners have gotten into arguments, I guess, with people trying to articulate whether or not their like mobile home or their RV or tiny house or whatever is permanent or not. And so adding in this language was kind of what we had recommended. So it's literally just the word permanent foundation that we changed in that one. And then, like I said, a lot of the rest of this is about the same. I did omit a couple of the definitions that were in the model bylaw. Let me just find that comment where I wrote them all down. The ones I did take out from the model bylaw were design standards, because Deerfield doesn't have a separate standalone document that defines what design standards are. Some towns do that, and we have kind of like vaguely talked about maybe adopting some design standards, but they're generally for like historic districts or like a certain district that has like a certain aesthetic or a feel about it. And since we don't have one, I didn't include that definition. The model bylaw also had EOHLC, which is the State Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. It's not used anywhere else in the model bylaw, and state department names change, so that didn't make sense to include, in my opinion. I didn't include the historic district definition because we really don't have a historic district that's regulated by our zoning. So just didn't, again, make really sense because it's not really applicable. The model bylaw did have a definition of lot, but our definition of what a lot is I'd say better articulated and has a lot more language and connections to some of the other definitions in the bottom, which are more like what is like a boundary line and how the curvature of some lot lines are like calculated. And it also plays into our subdivision. So it felt like touching that was not worth the intent of what we were trying to do. And I think how we have it defined is actually better. I also took out the pre-existing non-conforming because we have a whole section closer to the use tables in the front of the chapter that just copy MGL. So I didn't think it was worth kind of adding another layer of complexity there. And then I didn't include the definition of short-term rental that the state wanted to use because we don't currently allow it as a town, and it probably has to be a much more comprehensive bylaw change than just adding it in a definition and a use. And it felt a little bit outside of the scope of what we were trying to do with just this ADU bylaw update. So otherwise, everything else is word for word. So any questions on any of the definitions so far?
No, but maybe just to say, we did have a discussion about how much we were going to copy the model bylaw last time, and we kind of landed on it's probably going to end up being the bylaw that's required. So it made sense to just adopt it now as much as possible, rather than nitpick here and there, knowing that those will probably get,
Yes.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Adopted.
So, something overruled at some point. Challenged, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I'm
there
so-
was,
Yeah.
yeah, and the guidelines tell you like, you know, like there's like, it has kind of like a stoplight system of like what you should know if you change sections and where you really shouldn't. And these are already defined in MGL. Other places like this transit station one's a good example. It talks about a subway station, a commuter rail station, a ferry terminal, or a bus station, right? Like, I mean, the bus station's probably the really only super applicable one, maybe the train someday. But, you know, this is the MGL anyway, so you might as well just adopt it. You could omit it if you wanted to, but, you know.
Are you manifesting that train for us, Alex?
I've heard rumors since I've been there for sure. So, you know, someone else's dreams for sure. Okay, so general provision. So this one, again, this is literally, I reorganized this section just a little bit from our last conversation, only because we talked about really emphasizing like that model bylaw. So the code compliance, these are straight, you'll follow the building code and fire code. It will comply with CMRs and the state environmental code for septic regulations, straight from the model bylaw. This standards one, so the zoning enforcement officer will approve building permits, and including a pre-existing non-conforming structure if the following conditions are met. So this is the base criteria for all ADUs. So the minimum square footage is here, number one. Number two talks about an ADU on a lot with a principal dwelling that is not a single-family residential dwelling unit shall not have more restrictive dimensional standards than those required for its principal dwelling. That's also an MGL. It's just not something you can regulate. It goes with the accessory dimensional requirements. And the three is an ADU on a lot with a principal dwelling unit that is not a single family residential dwelling unit shall not have more restrictive dimensional standards than those required for its principal dwelling or single family residential dwelling or accessory structure within the same district, whichever results in the more permissive regulation. I think those were relatively similar, but they were both in the ADU model bylaw, so I left them in just for that reason alone. And then 4 is kind of where I went back to kind of what we had talked about at the last planning board meeting, which is we wanted to really clarify this bylaw is only allowing one ADU. One ADU is allowed per lot. And that number 5, we copied kind of some of the accessory apartment previous language about accessible units. And so that to provide for the development of accessible housing units, the planning board will allow reasonable deviation from the stated conditions where necessary to install features that facilitate access and mobility, for example, in the creation of a separate entrance. So that is literally just taken from the last ones that were approved from the last bylaw iteration. And then 6 is in a residence with an ADU, only one unit can be rented. The ADU is not to be used for short-term rentals, so rentals for less than 30 days. Again, that was kind of actually a copy from the last ADU, accessory apartment language, so just copied it forward for clarity. So, any questions on that?
Nope.
Except I can't spell.
Yeah,
so
I
sorry.
do.
Go for it. Oh, you muted, Gabby.
Can you scroll up a little bit?
Yeah.
So one place you had residence spelled incorrectly. It was like double underlined. Okay. So here it says an ADU on a lot with a principal dwelling that is not a single family residential dwelling unit shall not have a more restrictive dimensional standard. So how does one define which is the a two family, the apartment in a two family versus the ADU? Unless we define them both, how is that not two units on a property? If you've already got a two family and you add a unit, what's the difference between the unit and the ADU?
I think it's a little hairy. Bob is the building commissioner, right? Actually gets to make those decisions on like where one building ends and where another kind of does or doesn't meet whatever the current building code says about it. So
And
it gets hairy.
my second question is, don't we have we've given ZBA for Airbnbs. Isn't that a short-term rental?
They are.
So how do we say we don't allow those? We have
Because
those.
I'm not sure how they were permitted in the first place. They predate a lot of us being here, and I don't know where in the
It's
zoning
recently
code.
that we approved Airbnbs on the ZBA, so
It was 2017, I think. 2016, 17 looked like a handful were issued.
since then. Am I wrong?
Which one are you thinking
We
of?
just allowed one up on the mountain where everybody was concerned about it being in a residential area
Yeah.
and it was going to be too muddy and a one-way road, and we allowed that. That was an Airbnb.
You
Mhm.
allowed it by special permit.
Right,
Uh-huh.
but then how do we say in another place that we don't allow those? Maybe we have to say we only allow those by special permit.
I'll say I don't understand what you use to say that you do allow them. I don't think it's written very clearly in the use tables or bylaw anywhere about short-term rentals. And the use tables actually have at the very top this this first sentence, or the last sentence in like the first paragraph says something along the lines of, if it's not mentioned in the use tables, it's not allowed whatsoever. So I say it's a interesting historic note that I don't know how they were justified using the zoning. Or they were removed, maybe. Maybe in a version they were taken out or something, but we don't have any regulations on short-term rentals or say that we allow them anywhere in this current zoning code. You could totally change that.
I think that only makes me more confused, but that's okay.
So as I remember it, we currently don't have any definition for Airbnb in our bylaws, and Bob found a way for us to allow that short-term rental. We do have something about short-term rental. That's how that Airbnb was allowed by special permit. But until, and I think, this isn't the round to do it, but maybe next round, we do want to get a definition of Airbnb and include that and figure out how we want to regulate that. But I think this particular round is not the round to be working on that.
Yeah,
So
it
if
would be
we don't want
great.
there to be a lot of short-term rentals. Do we need to specify that an ADU has to be 30 days or more?
Well,
Do we
that's kind of
specify
why.
that?
That's why 6 is in there. So ADUs not to be used for short-term rentals for less than 30 days. I think that's state law that it triggers something. Because actually, if you do allow short-term rentals, you can collect like a tax on it. Actually, you could talk with Sarah about it. But yeah, she's like, yeah, if we had a list and we knew, we could and regulated them in such a way. The town can collect a local like overnight occupancy tax on them.
Worth doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, yeah. But then, the next round we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I recall, we looked at the definitions of boarding house, right? Rooming,
Right?
and
Bed and breakfast.
yes, and so there was some wiggle room there.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
could use a little bit of grace. Yeah, for sure. If there's that stuff is all in the bylaw for sure, but yeah, it'd be
Well, 'cause
interesting.
Airbnb took out all of the bed and breakfast websites that used to exist. Like it used to be, you'd go to like bedandbreakfast.org to find a bed and breakfast, and now they're all just listed on Airbnb. So I think that even in that way, it's gotten very gray because they're using the same like software or websites to list whether it's a bed and breakfast or like a room in your house.
Yeah, but as I recall, the one you're talking about, Gabby, we made it clear in the special permit that that resident had to be on site. Like this was not an off-site, manage
Sure.
your own,
Correct. Correct.
just put a key in the
It
lockbox.
still is a short-term rental.
It is, but that's a bed and breakfast or there were other sort of overlapping parameters that I think we felt that there was room in there. No pun intended.
Okay, so any other questions on this section, I guess? Thoughts?
Amy, I'm
Okay,
going to go
fine.
turn the lights on so we can see. You can do that. Great. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just gonna jump down to, so this is the ADU allowed by special permit. The planning board may authorize a special permit for an ADU up to 1,200 square feet. Accessory dwelling unit allowed by special permit must meet the following standards. And this is where, really like whatever you all think is interesting or want to discuss, like feel free. I stole this base language 1, 2, and 3 here from the model bylaw, but all it says is ADU by special permit must be larger than 900 square feet. ADU by special permit shall not be larger than a gross floor area of 1,200 square feet. And then an ADU by special permit shall comply with the dimensional standards for the principal dwelling. So just that it copies the same setbacks and height requirements and such. So that's just from the base. So if there's anything else you think we could add in, feel free or make clear.
I think we're all agreeing and nodding.
Okay. Cool. The only thing I might suggest looking at is this 900 square feet. I would actually recommend kind of reading and saying it out loud would be adding in or 1/2 the gross principal dwelling size. Because if somebody has like 1,000 square foot house and they want it to be larger than 500 square feet, but not actually larger than 900 square feet, then it kind of leaves them in this weird space to not be allowed to do that, if that makes sense. Unless you
makes
don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, reading out loud is sometimes good, right? And then let's see, I think the next section, I just separated it out from the last version where we had just kind of like the administration. Oh, I left the special permit procedures in here. It's pretty basic, just that you'll follow section 5300. I'm going to change this to an ADU. And it's non-refundable fee. I mean, you could keep this in here or you could delete the whole section. Because section 1500 is all the instructions for how to apply for a special permit and all the things. This was just in the accessory apartment, so I wasn't sure if maybe an attorney recommended having, just the reiteration that you still have to go through that the full process. But I figure we just leave it and just update it for the current too. Does anyone have any strong feelings either way? No? Okay. Just leave it in there for now. probably just a good reminder for anyone looking. So 3950 is non-conformance. I think in the last discussion we had, I left this part out because we have a pretty good, I think, pre-existing non-conforming bylaw up in the top. It could be worded a little bit better, but that's like a totally different change in the bylaw section. And so I just stole this from the model bylaw. An ADU shall be permitted within or on a lot with a pre-existing non-conforming structure, so long as the protected use ADU can be developed in conformance with the building code 760 CMR 71 and state law. A finding under MGL that the extension or alteration of the pre-existing non-conforming structure is not substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood shall be made by the zoning board in an as-of-right process without requiring a special permit or other discretionary waiver if less than 900 square feet or less than 1/2 the gross floor area. So that all is essentially just in MGL, but in the model bylaw, they had this section written in there, so copied it over. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, not seeing it.
Nope.
Okay. And then administration and enforcement, the zoning enforcement officer shall administer and enforce the provisions of the section. No building shall be changed in use or configuration without a building permit from the zoning enforcement officer. No building shall be occupied until a certificate of occupancy is issued by the zoning enforcement officer where required. And the zoning enforcement officer shall apply the Dover analysis as articulated in the standards in 760 CMR to any request for an ADU building permit and shall waive any zoning requirement that the zoning enforcement officer finds to be unreasonable under the Dover analysis. So again, just kind of essentially reinforcing the law and the enforcement position. So Bob can do a lot of things for you all. That's what I would end with. And I think that was it. That was the end of kind of the edits we,
Thanks.
I'd say, fully discussed.
Thanks, Alex.
Nice job.
Yeah, the only other one that I would say is there's a few in the definitions, like I mentioned, kind of in the dwelling unit. And if I could get my navigation to show up, there is like that dwelling unit. I would change that and just couch it as part of the ADU bylaw change because you don't want to have conflicting definitions. But I think other than that, I would leave everything else. The changes we made are pretty. Oh wait, sorry. Here, I found one more comment I should probably bring up. This accessory building or structure definition, I just added in a little sentence of clarity that so an accessory building or structure shall mean a building or structure subordinate to a principal building or structure and customarily used to serve the purposes of that principal building. So like it's generally like a garage or something. A building is an accessory only where a principal dwelling exists on the same lot. No accessory building or structure may be higher than 25 feet or 10 feet less than the height of the principal building or structure on the lot, whichever is greater. And I just put the height of an ADU may be equal to the height of the principal dwelling because that is actually what the Dover analysis would tell you. That piece and then the dwelling units is kind of the only other weird definition I might suggest editing. So this is our current dwelling unit. We have like dwelling overarching, and then we have single family, two family, multifamily, and then we have dwelling unit shall be a building or part of a building occupied for or suitable for occupancy as a residence arranged for the use of one or more individuals living as a single housekeeping unit with its own cooking, living, and sanitary and sleeping facilities. And then I could just pop in the definition from above if everyone is okay with that.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll pop that in there. So then that's it. Sorry, now I'm officially done. Sorry.
Thank you.
We should think of a lot of questions to ask Alex so that she can't.
I know, can't go anywhere. Also, though, I just want to
to.
say that, and I love this. I'm so glad to tuck this into another nice little package. But a lot of this work was pushed forward by Kathy and Mr. Cunningham and a lot of people at Annalee, and so that work actually did harrow the ground for us to be able to do this. So thank you. I want to just grandmother you into that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's all I have for you all. So,
Yep.
what?
Got a haircut.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, man. Okay, so Alex, so this is, so you're going to make these changes, send them to Amy, and then at some point, we'll have a public hearing on all of these changes.
Yeah, you need to have a public hearing. Amy and I talked about it. Amy, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I talked to Chris about when he thought town meeting might be, because we do have sort of a schedule. You have to go back from town meeting. There are requirements. He thought it was going to be early, so I put in October 1st, like there's a calculator that you can put in the date of your town meeting, and it'll tell you when you have to have all these things. And when I put in October 1st for the date of a town meeting, Chris didn't think it would be earlier than that. What I came up with is we'll be wanting to have the hearing in early August. So we kind of, at today's building department meeting, when we were meeting with Christopher, I suggested that, we try and get a draft tonight. And so Alex, I take it you've made the changes and you can send that to me for what we've talked about tonight, and start running that past the lawyers. I mean, we can still tweak it a bit, but we want to run all of this past the lawyers before we get to the hearing. And so, sorry, I'm not being very articulate, but the goal is to be ready, have a draft, have something ready for early August for a hearing.
Oh, it comes quick.
No, that sounds great. I did notice, I know this is a little off topic, but you've got the next planning board meeting for July 1st. That's a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you and I think, talked about doing it on the 6th, would be the,
Oh, right.
or no, wait.
Well, July 6th is right at.
No, I'm sorry. We talked about doing it on the 13th. I'm sorry, I didn't change it on the,
Okay, well, we can talk about that at the end of the meeting then, once we go through the rest. Okay. We'll figure out.
But you're right, because from a timing perspective, we'll want to have this to look at that meeting so that we can have it complete before the hearing if it's going to be in early August. Yeah.
So do you, so do you want to have this for July 13th, and we'll go over this, and and then we'll have the public hearing in August?
yes.
Okay.
I think, and like I said, I'll send this draft to the lawyers for them to look at
Right.
between now and July 13th, see what they have to say. And then maybe, depending on what goes on, you have a chance to have another meeting before the August hearing, if you need to. You've got a couple weeks.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, all right. So as far as the ZBA is concerned, are you guys cool with this?
We're just following your lead. We're a reactive board. You're a proactive board.
Okay. Just checking, David.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so.
No comment.
Wait, we want to break the rules. No, we can't break the rules. Okay, great. So I get. I know they do. Okay. All right. So I guess that wraps up our discussion on ADUs for the time being. So does that mean Alex is leaving us?
Oh, thank you
Okay.
so much, Alex.
So everyone, Alex, thank you so much. We loved working with you. We're excited for you. We're sorry you're leaving us, but we're really excited for you for your new job.
Alex,
Thank you.
Can I ask you one last question? Where were you just reading from about all these heights of buildings? Where was that?
In the definitions at the very
Thank you.
end.
The very end. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It was great working with you all too, both CBA and planning board. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Come back and, meet us at BBC one night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Alex.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
I know. It's sad.
So good.
Okay, all right. So we're all set with that. And as far as master plan funding, that's our next agenda item, master plan funding.
Yeah, I think we had just, the town decided not to pursue the
Right.
grant since we are now in between planners. We didn't want to overload someone new with that,
Right.
so we're putting it off till next year. So that's the update.
Yeah. I know in the meantime, I did take home just a little light reading on our thick master plan, our current master plan. So I have that and I'll return that when I'm finished. But I think right now it has 5 different parts. It's like more than 20 years old, so it's very outdated. I know that we do, we have a lot of good information to put in already, I think, in terms of open space. I think part of what's really going to use a lot of work is the economic development part. And so when we do get a new planner, then we can talk to possibly the FERCog.
Yeah.
I think they expressed an interest
Yeah,
in
they,
that.
yep, they did, and so
So-
did VBH,
Oh, yeah, VHB.
VHB,
We've
yeah.
worked with
Their
them
their
before, and
estimate
they're
came
great.
in quite a bit higher.
Well, yeah, maybe they could negotiate a little bit more. Anyway, but FERCog is, very familiar with us and what we've done, so it'll probably end up being FERCog.
Yeah. And then just,
Yeah, so,
yeah, for
So-
okay, yep.
yeah, to be continued with that. And then, so we do have 2 people in the public who've sat there patiently. Or do you have any comments?
Or question.
Any questions? Yeah, come on up to the,
Can you pass down the sign-in sheet, David?
I'll sign in.
state your name and sign in, please.
John Cunningham from Gramaki Avenue. Just one follow-up point about the frontage and the assessment and the assessor. Well, 2 points perhaps. I think the assessor has to look at what's going to happen to values of every lot if they can have an ADU. So I think this is inevitable, whether or not you consider the footnote. On the matter of the footnote, however, I understand the T word and such, and it could be that when you do the assessor's evaluation, you could remove the requirement just from the CVRD where you're not going to find a lot of additional building lots attached to the existing premises, and maybe not do the RA. If you, instead of not doing either, you might just look at CVRD only, because for the Conway study and housing expansion, that's the zone you're looking at in any event.
That's the density.
Yeah. So those are my comments. I'll sign in,
Right.
I promise.
No, thank you. Thank you. No, Mr. Champion, no comments? Got your name on your shirt. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see, what else?
Well, ZBA could adjourn, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, unless
Well,
you want to
just,
stay.
I mean, I know.
Before
it's a lot of
ZBA
fun.
I make a
adjourns-
motion for the ZBA to adjourn. I'm-
Hold on.
Yeah,
Amy says no.
Before you guys adjourn, I just put this on the agenda that the membership changes. You've lost 2 more members now. Tia is resigning, and as is Mark Brennan. If anybody knows anyone, we are now below the number of people we need to approve a special permit.
I have a name for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But please encourage anyone you know. We should have 5 members and 2 alternates. So
Right.
it's a great committee, really. It's great.
Oh, yeah. We have a good time.
Okay.
Great chair.
How often do you meet? Because I want to tell people.
Monthly as needed, right, when we have cases to consider.
Okay, thank you.
One in January, those were your only meetings, right?
Yeah, we haven't met for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Nothing on the
Yeah.
horizon at the moment.
Yeah, ZBA meets when they, pretty much when they have an application, or if there's something else pressing, but usually it's just when there's an application, so they can go a few months. They might have a couple of applications at one time, you never know, but
And you meet
yeah,
on Mondays?
they generally meet less than 12 times a year.
Tuesdays do we meet? Thursday? When do we meet? What night do we? Because we haven't met in a while.
Third Thursday of the month is
Okay.
always set aside, but if there
Yeah.
are no applications, then
Right.
there is no meeting.
Since Dollar General.
Oh, boy,
I
that was
forget.
exciting. Okay.
That's like where we cut our teeth, really.
So you need two members and 2 alternates, so you actually need 4 people. Okay.
Well, I think our third member here is also leaving shortly.
So you need 3 members and 2
Oh, my
alternates?
Yeah.
gosh.
Wow.
Gabby is holding on until we find another member, I think. Is that still true? Yes, thank you.
Wow.
We appreciate it.
Anybody
Especially when
here?
you told me I'm not.
Engaged citizens in the town.
Oh,
They can change the day.
You like those slow burn.
we can talk.
All right, so I make a motion the ZBA adjourns.
Okay.
All in favor?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Elaine. We all raised our hands. Gabby online, you're in favor. I love that. Thank you so much. Have a good night, guys.
Bye,
Okay,
ZBA.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Gabby.
Elaine.
All right.
We're at other business not reasonably anticipated
Okay.
48 hours from posting the meeting.
Do we have any reports?
I saw the text, you have dinner.
Go ahead.
No, I don't think it's an official report yet. I think there's something that will be a report in July.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that was
They know me.
Okay, so wait, I'm just clarifying, July 13th. Everybody who's here right now, are you able to make that meeting? Because we do need a quorum.
Yes.
And it's going to be an important meeting because we're going to go through all this before our public hearing.
I guess I had plans.
Well, change those plans.
My son's getting married, but I think we're not leaving till next time.
Wait, so July 13th, let me make sure that I'm around.
I'll be here.
If I'm not here, I will let
Yeah.
you know.
Yep, we're good. Okay, all
Already
right.
moved in.
Ann, Kathy, are you good with that?
At this point, I am good with that.
Okay, all right, as long as we have a quorum, that would be great. All right, so if there's nothing. else-
Yes, I move that we adjourn.
Oh, I second
That's
that.
Rachel Blaine.
That's Emily Gaylord.
Kathy Wetruba, yes.
Ann Buchanan, yes.
Emily Gaylord, yes.
Kathy Sylvester, yes.
Rachel Blaine, yes.
And Denise Mason, yes. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, team.